Time for a look at the papers now. Joined in the studio by Aggie Chambray, political correspondent at LBC, and the former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Good to see you both. Glad you're here. Claire, should we start with the front page of The Sun, because they're sticking to the story about Andrew saying that, well, you can't avoid that word treason that is plastered across that. I mean, that is an upgrade, really, on the charges, or he hasn't been charged, or the accusations he's currently facing. That's
right, and this is the MP, Tom Tugendhat, so ex-security minister, and he's calling for a special committee to probe the dealings of both Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, and also Peter Mandelson, with their links to Epstein. So he wants that to be brought up, and he said if there is treason and if that is evidenceable, then that needs to be dealt with. And one of his comments is quite interesting. He said Parliament needs to send a strong message that Britain will defend itself from every threat, even if it comes from the very top. I mean, these are quite sort of bold statements to make, but I think it also sort of plays into the level of anger that people have got, that documents were shared by people in positions of authority over to someone that was going to make a huge amount of money out of those decisions. And quite interesting, the death penalty for treason was abolished in 1998, so I think everybody...
Only in 1998?
Only in 1998.
Wow.
So people can heave a little sigh of relief, or not, as the case may be.
I wonder when the last time someone was convicted of treason was.
Interestingly, it wasn't that long ago, in 2021.
OK.
Where there was a chap who invaded Windsor Castle with a crossbow on Christmas Day, looking to kill the Queen.
And that was treason.
And that was treason.
Because it's such an ancient...
It is, yes.
...crime, isn't it? Potential crime. But look, more generally, Aggie, it's the situation, look, whatever happens with this, and let's be clear, Andrew and Peter Mandelson, neither have been charged with anything, although both being investigated for misconduct in a public office. But the rhetoric around this, the anger, really, has just ratcheted up and up and up, especially this week.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think we saw the government reacting to that. They hadn't really responded late on Friday night when we understood, as indeed Sky News did, that actually the government was set, or at least was going to consider legislating for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to be removed from the line of succession. And of course, they're not going to do anything until the police investigation is over. But it sounds like, from my conversations with people in government, that is pretty likely to happen, which is just an absolutely extraordinary turn of events in any case, and I think shows really where we are. And listening to what Tom Tugendhat is saying and what other opposition parties are saying too, I don't think the government will actually have any trouble getting that through Parliament.
Should we look at the Mail on Sunday? Because despite what I just said about things ratcheting up in the past week or so, it turns out that if their headline is to be believed, that things were being talked about in this regard, well, quite a long time ago now.
That's right. So this is about emails from 2019, and it's about a story that King Charles was warned about Andrew, then Prince Andrew's association with a controversial millionaire financier named David Rowland. And the emails were basically about the idea that Mr. Rowland was effectively joining in then Prince Andrew's royal duties. He was joining these taxpayer-funded trade envoys between 2001 and 2011 that Mr. Rowland once gave Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, 40 grand to help clear debts, and in 2017 paid off a £1.5 million loan for Andrew too. And these emails in 2019, there were two of them as far as the Mail on Sunday understands. The first one says that Prince Andrew's Royal Highness considers his relationship with David Rowland more important than that of his family. And a second one, a couple of weeks later, saying the evidence, and there are emails attached to these emails, saying the evidence provided unequivocally proves that you have abused the royal family's name, talking there, of course, about then Prince Andrew, and that was back in 2019. So difficult questions for the King as well, of course, with these. There is a response from Jonathan Rowland in that piece that says he has no idea about those emails to Charles.
The other big story in town, Claire, is tariffs. Once again, here we are. Donald Trump slapped on the wrists by the Supreme Court and has responded. And you suspect he had a response in his back pocket because he, there was always a risk they were going to override his decision-making. But he's ratcheted up 10% to now 15% tariffs universally.
That's right. And this, of course, was all announced on Donald Trump's Truth Social in a message, you know, I, the president, cordially invite you to pay 15%. It's an interesting one for the UK, if you're going to look at how this affects us domestically, because we had an agreement that was all drawn up that we would have favourable terms for certain aspects. So I think it's now incumbent upon the Prime Minister to pick up the phone to Donald Trump and say, are you going to stick with the agreement that we had? I don't see what else you can do, because unfortunately I know that Sir Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, has called for the government to sue Donald Trump, which is Lib Dems doing a Lib Dem thing. Isn't going to happen. But I do think that we need a bit of certainty here for businesses within the United Kingdom as to how this is going to affect them, because those import tariffs obviously are going to cause a massive problem. It's the people in America, it's the consumers in America who will ultimately pay the price.
Yeah.
But if you cannot do business across with one of our closest partners, I think that we're in serious trouble. So I think that we haven't heard the end of this. I think that Donald Trump will use every tool in the box to be able to get round the Supreme Court's ruling. This is what he's doing. He's looking at different laws he can enact in order to get the tariffs through that he believes everybody should be paying.
Yes, well, he's using a 50-year-old law to do this, isn't he? And it's meant to be temporary, coming in on Tuesday and lasting 150 days. There are exemptions, though, aren't there? As much as he wants it to be 15% across the board, they want things exempted because they need them, like minerals and metals. And I think, you know, Britain does seem to benefit a little bit from that. Let's bring it back to the domestic situation and something, Aggie, that is getting people really frustrated. It is student loans, particularly that cohort that were in universities during the 2010s. The Tories say they will cut unfair interest on student loans, although it was the Tories who were in power when this came in the first place, wasn't it? And also, if they're going to do it, we've got 3 years to the general election. That's going to be too late for all the people who are paying these punitive interest rates at the moment.
Indeed, and this is such a weird story, because it was the Tories that brought this in.
Yeah.
It was the government.
Well, the coalition. Let's be fair, the coalition.
Fine,
yeah.
the coalition. But the Tories had their Prime Minister in post. Labour never backed it. And now we're in this really weird position where Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is going around saying, look, we think they're proportionate, we think they're fair, student loans, in a system that they did not bring in, which is causing absolute fury in some parts of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
But basically, the government doesn't have a huge amount of money to fix this. And now we have Kemi Badenoch coming out today, talking to the Sunday Telegraph, basically saying the Conservatives are going to abolish the unfair additional interest on student loans. So these loans, these sort of so-called Plan 2 loans, have been criticised for the interest rate for up to 3% that's imposed in addition to inflation. Effectively, graduates must earn at least £66,000 just to keep up with the interest payments.
It's crazy.
I think a lot of young people are really struggling with this, and a lot of older people are shocked that this system happened, because I think when you go to university, lots of people were basically told, don't worry about that loan, that will be completely fine. Yeah. You won't need to worry about that, it's interest-free.
Led to believe it was a cheap loan, effectively.
A cheap loan, and then people are kind of looking back, phoning the student loan company and thinking, hang on a second, how much do I owe now?
Yes, yeah, and fiscal drag is a part of this, Claire, as well, because, you know, as Aggie said there, more people have to pay this slightly earlier on in their careers when they're earning a certain amount. But it is strange, that idea that Labour aren't sorting this out. And they've just run a tax surplus in January as well. So, you know, they're saying they haven't got the money. Well, they've just got the biggest tax surplus ever recorded in January. And
I think the problem with the Labour government is that it can't quite decide where it wants to put taxation cuts and who. And I think that this has been so low down their list of priorities, which is strange. And Aggie's right. This is a very strange position for a Labour government.
Yeah.
Who insisted in Tony Blair's time that 50% or more people should go off to universities. And they kind of created that demand there. So it's unsurprising that we've now got this level of debt coming through. 30
seconds, Claire, just to finish off on The Sun about this story of intimate affairs in prisons. 18 warders had affair with lags is their headline. This is incredible. The fact that people who are meant to be keeping prisoners behaving themselves are actually having relationships with them instead.
Well, I was shocked when I saw this, and Aggie and I were chatting about it before, and it's one of those stories that you sort of think, why on earth is this a thing?
Yeah.
If you've got people who are in prison, probably for some pretty horrendous crimes, why would you look at having an affair with them there?
We'll have to leave that question hanging in the air. Thank you both for the time being. Much more coming up after this short break. Don't go away.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist